PACC. I am your host, Con Shawnery. Tonight, we have a classic, The Raven, by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it. It was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. In the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain, thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, the stillness gave no token. The only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what the rep is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obedient made her, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with men of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door. Perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. Perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad face into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marveled this ungainly fowl, to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, "Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before." Then the bird said, "Nevermore." Startled at the stillness, broken by a reply so aptly spoken, "Doubtless," said I, "what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs once burden bore, till the dirge of his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore." But the raven still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy onto fancy, thinking that this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, "Nevermore." This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burns into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er. But whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite and nepent from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, O quaff this kind nepent, and forget this lost Lenore, quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether temper sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there Blum and Gilead? Tell me, I implore, quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore. Tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distance adding, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our signs of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest, and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take the beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door, quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out the shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted, nevermore.
Now we're going to take a doggy break. This is Sagan. Hi, Sagan. Are you waiting for Conchonnery to finish telling you a story? Well, hello. Say hi. Hey, everybody. Hey, everybody. This is my other pup. Boy, this is way too close. All right, time to get spooky again.
Our next story is the ghost of Sifty Sam. There was once a great big 2-story house about 10 miles from town. It was set way back from the roadside where it couldn't be seen. The house was sitting right on the edge of a lake. It was surrounded by woods. There were rumors that it was haunted by a terrible ghost called Sifty Sam. Nobody had ever spent the night in the house because the ghost would always drive them away. The man that owned the old place wanted to rent it out. He was very anxious to prove that it wasn't haunted and offered a great big reward to anybody that could stay in the house all night. Finally, he came across a man named Sam who had just come to town and had a reputation for being able to deal with ghosts. When the owner approached him, Sam struck a bargain. He said he would stay the night in the old haunted house if the owner gave him reward money and bought him some food so he could cook himself some dinner. So the owner went down to the grocery store and bought Sam a big sack of potatoes and a slab of dry, salted bacon. That evening, Sam threw his sack full of grub over his shoulder and set out for the haunted house. When he got there, Sam opened the door, walked in and started a fire in the fireplace so he could cook himself some dinner. Outside, a huge gust of wind shook the house and howled down the chimney. Sam shivered and threw another log on the fire. Just as the dinner was almost cooked, Sam heard a faint cry coming from the far side of the lake. He was a little scared, so he went around the house making sure all the doors and windows were locked. Then he heard the cry again. This time it was louder and nearer. "That ghost better not tangle with me," he said to himself. "He shows up around here, he's gonna be gone." No sooner had the words left his mouth than Sam heard a sinister voice chanting, "I am Sifty Sifty Sam. I'm here on the lake, but where is the man?" Sam froze in place and listened. The wind picked up again, howling down the large chimney. "I am Sifty Sifty Sam," the sinister voice hissed. "I'm here on the shore and I'm coming for the man." When Sam heard this, he started to get really nervous. He knew the ghost was talking about him. His armpits began to sweat. His eyes were shining like wet glass, and his knees were knocking together like a sledgehammer. "I am Sifty Sifty Sam," the terrible howling voice called from the front of the house. "I'm here on the porch and I can see the man." Sam stood by the window with a frying pan full of meat in one hand and a sack of potatoes in the other. He heard the front door burst open, and down the passageway came a mighty rush of cold air. "I'm Sifty Sifty Sam," a horrible, blood-chilling voice bellowed. "I'm here in the house and I'm going to kill the man." "Oh, no, you ain't," shouted Sam as he ran off down the road with the frying pan full of meat and the sack of potatoes, "because I'm already gone."
Is that it? Is that it, Conshonnery? We'll see you next week. Have a great evening. Goodbye.